In November 2014, I was more broke than I'd ever been in my life. My bank account had a negative balance and I owed thousands of dollars in loans and bills. To top it off, my only credit card left was accidentally canceled by my bank, thus leaving me with no way to pay for food or anything. So how did I end up like this? Because I made a movie. A movie that nobody has really seen except these guys who apparently got a migraine from watching it. Awesome. But before we jump ahead, let's back up and let me explain the saga of making this little indie feature. There was a lot I learned, of course, and I think I actually did a lot of things right for it being my first real movie and all, but there were some things where I just kind of go, what in the world was I thinking? So I grew up making movies like most kids using the home video camera. My brother Cody and I made dozens and dozens of short movies, and as you'd expect, they're pretty terrible.
What'd you do that for? I don't know.
Solid acting right there. But it was all fun, and it became obvious to us early on that making movies wasn't just a hobby, it was a passion. Now, having grown up in a very close family, my cousins Josh, Luke, and Joel joined in on making some of these home movies throughout the years, and the five of us quickly became a filmmaking team. So when YouTube came around, we started making comedy sketches for the internets. And around 2007, we made a no-budget comedy feature film called The Pack Pack. Yeah, get it? It's like a backpack.
It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
We screened it at the local high school to lots of laughs and praise, but we still hadn't done anything big. Yet. So fast forward a year later to 2008, and my cousin Josh hands us a script called Social Norm. And it's hilarious. It was about a socially awkward guy named Norm who has trouble getting girls and has a super embarrassing family filled with lots of gags and slapstick, of course. And I was set to play Norm, because I'm super awkward, I guess. What? So also around this time, and as fate would have it, I landed an internship at Sony Pictures in Culver City. I was going to the local college and working full-time as well, so my schedule was slammed. But I went to the studio every week, where I got to meet this guy, and many other famous people. By bringing them coffee. That was it. Sucks being an intern. As amazing as the opportunity was to be at a major film studio, the whole experience was kind of traumatizing because I don't know if you've happened to catch what year I said this was.
Now it's official, we are in a recession.
The NASDAQ plunged almost 10%.
Many Americans have felt anxiety about their finances and their future. Our entire economy is in danger.
So with the recession starting to take shape, within 2 months I was let go from my job, forced to drop out of school because I could no longer afford it, and thus decided to place all my hope that something would come from this internship at Sony. But nothing did. It just ended. So, as you can imagine, with so much financial uncertainty in the future for everybody, Social Norm became a low priority for the cousins, and it was shelved. The years that followed were pretty rough. After the soul-crushing experience at Sony, I wasn't sure I even wanted to be a filmmaker anymore. I took a few jobs working as a medical assistant. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. But I was always looking for some other career path other than filmmaking. To be fair though, the cousins and I continued to make short comedy sketches, and we did our best to beef up our quality, and in my honest opinion, we actually produced some of our best work during these years. But my career was going in a different direction, or at least trying to go a direction. After years of failed attempts at trying to get out of the medical industry, I will never forget a specific moment in 2011 when I was at work. I had this deep, depressing thought of, maybe this is just what my life is going to be like. Maybe I should just accept it. Ooh. Then, out of nowhere in early 2012, the phone rang. It was Sony, and they were offering me a full-time job at the studio. What? Now, I'm leaving out some key details here because this is just taking too long, but I was all in for taking this job at the studio. I didn't care what I had to do, how much coffee I had to get for whoever, or what it was. I wanted to get back into the world of filmmaking so bad. I was done trying to reason with myself that I wanted to do anything else besides be a part of filmmaking. But I knew there was something else I had to do while I was at Sony, something besides just working on deliverables and filling out a timesheet. If I was going to put myself back in that environment, I needed to also do what I had always wanted to do. Make a movie with everything I had in me. After years and years of making no-budget home movies and YouTube sketches, it was time to go for broke and make a professional film. Now, of course, this would require a script, and as you can imagine, the first and only script that came to mind was Social Norm. So in early 2013, I told the cousins that I wanted us to finally make Social Norm. They were all on board and agreed to let me take over as director. So since I was directing, I decided to rework Josh's original script to my liking. And although some may disagree, I realized after rereading the original script that it was actually a really sad story. If you took out the jokes, you'd be left with a depressing plot and characters. I still wanted to make a comedy, don't get me wrong here, but I wasn't interested in just making a funny movie. I mean, I already knew we were capable of that, but I wanted to focus on telling a good story. Now you might be asking yourself, but why this story? Well, aside from the fact that this was the perfect vehicle for myself and the cousins, I realized that the main character, Norm, was struggling with how to move on with life. He was trapped and could not escape no matter how hard he tried. And then it dawned on me that this is exactly how I felt at my old job. This was an experience too close to what I was going through, and that was exactly the story I wanted to tell. So this leads me to the first thing I think I did right in this whole endeavor. I picked the right story to tell. For anybody who wants to make movies, it's really all about the story and the script, and I have no regrets about the story I chose to tell for my first film. Now, with nobody backing this film, of course, I needed assistance from somebody outside of the cousin group, somebody with experience in producing a film at a certain level. Enter this guy. Alright, enough of that. It's Matt Kohler. So I met Matt on a short comedy sketch we had shot years prior, and I noticed on social media he had produced several indie projects that met the quality standard I wanted for the film. Now, because Matt was also an actor, I offered him a major role in the film in exchange that he would help me produce it. And boom, we formed a partnership. Over the next several months, Matt helped me bring on a director of photography, assistant director, actors, and other crew members to the project. I worked harder than I had ever before in getting everything ready for this shoot. We planned on filming for 2 weeks, a total of 15 days to shoot a 100-page script. It was a lot to do in such a short window of time, yes, but then we hit a snag. Yeah, whoops, this thing is gonna cost some money. Now, obviously, I knew it was going to be expensive to shoot this thing, and I figured with how much money I had saved up and how much we could reasonably get from other backers, we could shoot it for about $30,000. That's a micro budget by Hollywood standards, but, you know, lots of famous movies were shot for that amount or less. Yeah, my film could be just like those and we could do this for cheap. This is clearly where I made my first big mistake. I didn't say no enough. Any suggestion or request for the production was usually granted by me.
Fine!
I didn't have the proper knowledge, or confidence for that matter, to account for the escalating costs of the shoot. So before I knew it, the budget for this thing was starting to blow way past 30 grand. Between the equipment rentals, the insurance, the location, the hotels, the food, the travel, and the salaries, it became pretty apparent that we needed more money. But because I was so determined to get this film made, I decided to take out a loan at the bank to finance the rest of the movie. It was a risk, but I was willing to do whatever it took to see this through. So with the money just looking razor thin at this point, we started principal photography on August 2nd, 2014. And it was the craziest 2 weeks of my life, bar none. For the most part, the shoot actually went pretty well. We spent the first week filming in different locations across Los Angeles, and the second week was spent mostly in my hometown of Ventura. We had a few snags here and there, but that comes with any production. My assistant director got attacked by a dog, I got yelled at by landlords, we had multiple parking tickets, and we broke the viewing monitor on the first day, but again, it could have been much, much worse. Working with the cast and crew was awesome, and of course filming the scenes with the cousins was always the funnest part of making this entire thing. However, I will say that I did sustain some injuries performing my own stunts in the film. Nothing serious, but man, some of these hurt bad. I will say that one of the most profound feelings I remember having was about 3/4 of the way into the shoot. I would wake up each day expecting to feel invigorated and on this adrenaline rush that I was about to continue making a movie, my movie. But nope! I was flat out exhausted. I was still excited to film every day, but even the things you have the most passion for still require some R&R. So this revealed to me another big mistake I made. I was doing too much. Indie filmmaking requires you to wear multiple hats, of course, but I think I put on so many that it actually hurt the quality of the film. I was the director, the lead actor, the lead producer, the executive producer, the line producer, the co-writer, the script supervisor, and other small roles like figuring out food and making sure everyone got paid on time. If I had instead decreased my responsibilities, which would have meant decreasing the size of the production, I could have focused more on how to make the film better rather than just completing it. Filmmaking is a balancing act between trying to get it all done and trying to get it all right, and I unfortunately didn't spend as much as I should have on the latter. So we wrapped principal photography on August 17th, 2014. This was the last shot we did, by the way. And the hard part was over. At least I thought it was. With my finances in dire straits here, I was living paycheck to paycheck for a bit, trying to squeeze by, and then it happened. Basically, there was a check I wrote months prior for a large sum of money that had yet to be cashed. Through a series of miscommunications, this check was deposited and my bank account went bust. And somehow, even after this has happened, things got even worse. Or as I remember, they just got really stupid. Ugh. This whole thing frustrates me even to this day. So here's what happened. Being dead broke, I had at least a credit card that could pay for food until I got my next paycheck. But I soon discovered through my online banking that I apparently had 2 credit cards. And that second card had a $10,000 limit. And that's an amount I could really use right about now to pay some bills. But unfortunately, I never received that $10,000 credit card for some reason. So I went to the bank and I asked them to send me a new card for that $10,000 ASAP. They said in order to do so, they would have to cancel the existing card on file for that account in order to issue me a new one. So what do? They accidentally canceled my first credit card instead. Oh my gosh. My last source of money was taken away by a stupid error at the bank, and they had no way to remedy it until the new card arrived a few days later. I was ruined. I was bankrupt, and I had no way to finish the movie anytime soon. Unsure of how to proceed here, I remember sitting alone in my apartment in November of 2014 at 26 years old wondering, how did I get myself into this situation, dadgummit? But instead of moping around, I focused and made some immediate cutbacks to my normal routine. I reworked my schedule so I could pay all but one of my bills on time. Now, this unfortunately resulted in me having to skip a few meals for a week or so, but I was determined to get myself out of this. I didn't want any handouts or pity for what I had done to myself. This was my doing, and I was gonna pay the price, nobody else. As for how to move forward with the movie, well, it became pretty apparent with no money left that we were gonna have to do the editing ourselves. Fortunately, my brother Cody helped me out tremendously in putting this film together. I still had to prioritize my finances, so I left the movie with Cody, only to review it on the weekends when I didn't have work. This process took forever. But after months and months of simultaneously building up my finances while Cody edited the film, I managed to save up enough money again to invest in more post-production. And this is another area where I think I got it right. I took my time with the film. Aside from principal photography, I took my time everywhere else with this project. Now, arguably, maybe I didn't have much of a choice because of the financial situation, but nonetheless, I am grateful I spent a year putting the film together while responsibly building up financial security for myself. Fortunately, I was able to use some of my connections at Sony to allow me to do the sound mix for the film on their mixing stages. It was pretty awesome to be able to mix your movie where they also mix a bunch of these Hollywood blockbuster productions. It was pretty cool. And I want to give a quick shout out to a great sound mixer, Dante Reynolds. You're the best, dude. Thank you so much for your help on this film. I had a blast working with you. And slowly but surely, the film was complete. Done. I almost couldn't believe that it was actually finished. It had been so long and so much trial and tribulation that it was kind of weird to just say, hey, it's finished. But we still had to hold a screening. And what better place than a major Hollywood studio like Sony Pictures to premiere it, right? On December 5th, 2015, at the William Holden Theater on the Sony lot, over a year later from when I had lost all of my money, we held the premiere of Social Norm to about over 100 people in attendance. It was a fun night, to say the least, and pretty surreal to see something you've worked so hard on play before an audience on a giant screen. But truth be told, it was kind of a blur. It's so funny how many years of work goes into creating something people can ingest within 90 minutes or so. I just remember being so exhausted, but I digress. It was one of the most cathartic moments of my life, and I will never ever forget it. And then it dawned on me, now what? The film was complete. I was proud of it, but I had no idea what to do with it now. And this leads me to the last big mistake I made. I didn't prepare for distribution. I know, it's so cliche to say that an indie filmmaker just doesn't know anything about distribution. I know. Making a movie is a constant battle, and when you give it everything you got, you might be discouraged to see that distribution is its own separate battle that requires just as much of a fight. I had no idea how distribution worked or what kind of deals would be offered, and in the end, my own ignorance cost me a lot. So luckily, after the premiere, we actually got a few offers from a few companies for VOD distribution. Around this time in 2016, I left Sony and started working for another major company in video production, and a part of me was ready to move on from this project as well. It had been 4 years of my life, obsessively trying to get this film finished, and I was just kind of done. I just didn't have the energy to fight for this film any longer. So I signed a deal with Osiris Entertainment to distribute the movie, and in turn, they partnered with Gravitas Ventures to get it out into the world. Now, don't get me wrong, I was excited that we got a distributor for the film, but I was very disappointed when I found out that the deal was going to mean little to no money for me. It's unfortunate, but again, lessons learned here, people. As you can imagine, when the film was finally released on VOD on December 2nd, 2016, it was a bittersweet feeling. A feeling of accomplishment, yet sadness that it was all over. Unless you've made a film, you wouldn't know this feeling, but it's a wide array of emotions. It's gonna sound weird, but this film destroyed me, and I'm grateful it did. I was able to grow as a filmmaker and as a person. It wasn't until after it was all over that I realized I did one final thing right. I didn't give up on myself. I know, super cheesy, but seriously, I can't emphasize enough how much perseverance is required in completing a feature film. Blood, sweat, and tears is not enough to encapsulate it. And had I not had those terrifying thoughts of my life going in a direction I didn't want all those years ago, I may not have had the courage to fight as hard as I did for this film. I was determined to not give in to a lesser life for myself. So no matter how hard things got making this movie, I wasn't going to give up. And I'm glad I didn't. Now, I'm not saying Social Norm is perfect, far from it. There's definitely a lot of moments that make me cringe when I rewatch it now. But that's par for the course when you revisit any project years later. But overall, I'm still very proud of the movie. Who knows how I'll feel about it as more time passes, but for now, I'm happy with the work we did, and it's too personal of a story for me to start hating it anytime soon. As for what's next, well, over the next few years, I've continued to improve my skills, and I even tried my hand at horror recently. So I'm still following through on my passion as a filmmaker. I will keep making more and more content, and I would love the opportunity to make another feature film down the road. But in the meantime, I'm always on the lookout for future up-and-coming filmmakers who want to make their first feature film. I do hope this video has been insightful and helpful to some of you, so please feel free to reach out and share your experiences with me. Leave me a comment, shoot me an email, whatever you prefer to get in touch, and let me know what you're working on. Thanks for watching.